Being broken up with, discarded by an avoidant, it is one of the most painful types of breakups imaginable. It can be blindsiding, traumatic. You're given little to no explanation as to why the relationship has to end. You're given vague excuses, if you're given any at all. You're given no closure, and on top of that, you're often shown little to no empathy whatsoever. Your heart is shattered into a million pieces, and you're likely blaming yourself, wondering what it is that you did wrong. But in reality, it stems from the avoidance attachment wounds, which likely in most cases started in childhood. It's not actually a reflection of anything you did wrong if you are a loving, consistent partner. So what does trigger them to do this? When an avoidant has their fears triggered, they deactivate. That means they take their feelings for their partner and they suppress them, they bury them. They don't allow themselves to access their feelings. It's how they've learned to protect themselves. When they deactivate, they often run from the relationship altogether. So let's get into the top 3 things that will cause them to deactivate and discard a partner. Number 1, closeness, emotional intimacy. Emotional intimacy is a normal, healthy part of a relationship, but it makes the avoidant feel very unsafe. It lights up their nervous system with anxiety. And this is the result of consistent childhood emotional neglect. They often grew up in households where their basic needs were met, food, clothing, shelter, but their emotional needs were not met. They weren't given the love and nurturing in the way that they needed. Often having parents that don't do things like saying, "I love you." And what happened is the child personalizes that neglect. They think there must be something wrong with them, that they must be unlovable, that they must be defective, that they must be worthless. And they carry this feeling towards being an adult. Now, as an adult, they're still feeling defective and worthless deep down on the inside. And this is why they put up walls between themselves and their partner. Because their subconscious fear is, if I let down my walls, I'm going to love this person a ton, but my partner is going to figure out that I'm defective. They're going to figure out that I'm unworthless. I'm going to be exposed as being unlovable. And I'm going to get rejected and abandoned. So they look to create emotional distance between themselves and their partner. That's how they learn to keep themselves safe. Emotional closeness, well, that means rejection and abandonment. And they learn that if they rely on anybody for their emotional needs, like they did with their parents or caretakers, they're going to get disappointed, rejected, perhaps even outright abandoned. So closeness is simply unsafe for them. And when they are in a relationship with a partner that is emotionally available, a partner that is consistent, loving, affectionate, emotional intimacy naturally builds. And that causes anxiety, and the avoidant, well, they learn to avoid. So they suppress all their feelings, they deactivate, detach, and push their partner away to create that emotional distance so they can soothe themselves and feel safe again. And this is why a discard will often happen after things are going wonderfully. You just had an amazing holiday together. The two of you went on a trip. It felt great. The closeness was building. Maybe you went ring shopping. You met each other's families. Everything just felt perfect. And then suddenly, they're cold, they're distant, they're pushing you away, telling you vague excuses like the spark is gone, I don't know, something's just missing, I can't give you what you need, and then that's it. It's over. And the avoidant, they feel relief, but they don't even know why they're pushing you away. They don't know why they have this urge. And it's because of a lack of self-reflection. But it is the closeness that triggers them in these cases. It's nothing you did wrong, it's everything you did right because emotional intimacy was building. Let's get into the number 2 reason why they can deactivate and discard a partner. Number 2, commitment. Just like how the avoidant associates emotional closeness with abandonment, they also associate commitment with abandonment too. Because when you commit to a partner, it's implied that you have to be emotionally available and vulnerable for this person. And since being vulnerable equals abandonment, so does commitment, since it's implied that you have to be vulnerable. So in the avoidance mind, if I commit to this person, I'm going to get rejected, I'm going to get abandoned. However, if they keep it a situationship, let's not put labels on it. They don't have to be vulnerable. They don't have to be emotionally available. They can keep their walls up because they're not committed to this person. It helps them feel safe. So this is why they fear putting a title on the relationship, because their subconscious mind associates that title with getting rejected and abandoned. And especially this is applicable if their partner is emotionally available, consistent, and loving, because the avoidant fears that this person is too good for them. So it's inevitable they're going to figure out that they're too good for the avoidant and that the avoidant is unlovable, and they're going to get rejected and abandoned. The caveat is there is one type of partner that the avoidant can commit to without any fears. And that is a partner that is emotionally unavailable or perhaps even toxic. Because the toxic, emotionally unavailable partner could be another dismissive avoidant, it could be a narcissist. That person's walled off. They're not vulnerable for the avoidant, so there's no pressure for the avoidant to be vulnerable in return. They both are walled off from each other. Plus, this person's not all that special, so the avoidant doesn't fear abandonment and rejection from this person because they're not really poking through at the avoidant's heart. It feels safe. There's no threat of emotional intimacy in that relationship. So the avoidant can actually commit to that person without fear. But the emotionally available person, that's scary because intimacy is inevitable, which means rejection and abandonment. All right, let's get into the number 3 thing that can actually trigger them, cause them to deactivate and discard a partner. Number 3 is conflict. Any kind of disagreement. It can seem insurmountable to the avoidant. In addition to that childhood emotional neglect, they also had their feelings routinely dismissed and rejected. If they had any kind of negative emotion, it was met with rejection. If you're sad, go be sad in your room. Your emotions are not welcome here. So what they learned is if they express themselves, it gets shot down and perhaps they even get emotionally abandoned. So in the relationship, they fear communication, especially about their wants, needs, and feelings. They bottle it up. That's what they've learned to do, avoid. So they avoid emotions rather than express them. Now, even the tiniest disagreement can seem insurmountable to them. I want Italian food. Oh, I prefer Thai. Oh, too much of a disagreement, we're fundamentally incompatible. Because even a tiny little disagreement, it triggers their fears of rejection and abandonment that are all triggered by having to express a different emotional opinion. And that is scary to them. Also, with that fear of communication, with that fear of conflict, also comes the fear of expectations. Their parents or caretakers often had very high expectations of them, giving love and praise only when those expectations were met. They found it hard to meet their caretaker's expectations as a kid, so even the bare minimum expectations from their partner also feels insurmountable to them, which is why even if it's just basic expectations of consistent communication and not canceling plans, that can seem overwhelming to the avoidant, and they'll give their partner an excuse. I can't give you what you need. I know I'm just going to disappoint you. You deserve somebody better. That's because they fear that it is inevitable they're going to let this person down if they have any kind of expectations. It is far too scary. So expectations, disagreements, it is just too much for them. They're looking for the easy relationship, the relationship where there's no conflict, no expectations, and no closeness. But that relationship doesn't really exist, which is why healthy relationship, normal behaviors are things that trigger them. So if you were a consistent, loving, kind partner, but you had emotional intimacy building, or if you had any kind of disagreement or expectations, or if you were looking for commitment and the avoidant ran for the hills, abruptly discarding you or slow fading out, don't blame yourself. It is this person's insecurities. It is their attachment wounds. It is nothing that you did wrong. It's not a reflection of you. It's a reflection of them, their insecurities, and their character. Blaming yourself will only make yourself more anxious because you'll be trying to control the uncontrollable. Recognize that it is a reflection of them, not you, so you can heal and let go.